Greetings everyone and welcome back. My name is Alfred, and in this episode we're going to connect our Flutter application to the backend APIs that we created in the last video. So let's begin. To start with, I'll try to send a request to my backend APIs using the login button on our Flutter application. So I'll try to send a request to my APIs, and as you can see, we are not getting any response from the backend APIs. And that's because we've not set up correctly our endpoints. Another thing you might notice is that this button here keeps on loading. If we try to connect to the server and we do not get any response, we are supposed to come back and tell the user that we could not connect to the server as it was expected. So let's go ahead and address this issue. The way we're going to do that, we're going to get into our interceptor here. And remember, these are the interceptors that we were creating when we were designing up the application UI on the Flutter application. So what we can do here, before we come to the interceptors, we would want to go back to the dial client instance that we created here. And what we can do, we're going to add some options to the dial client class here. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're going to say dial, and then it's going to be options. And this time around, what we're going to do is to get the connection timeout. And we are going to say this, it's going to be a duration, and it will be in seconds, and we want to give a maximum of 5 seconds, so that if we do not connect to the server in 5 seconds, then we are going to come back and tell the user that we could not connect to the server due to some unknown reasons. Maybe the server is down or it's unavailable. So I'm going to make this one a constant like that. Alright, so after doing that, after adding the connection timeout constraint here, we go back to our interceptor here. And here, as you can see, we have my connection timeout error type. And what I am going to do right now, I'm just going to copy this and I'm just going to put it here above the other one. I am going to bring the preferences back to, down here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this return. I don't want the application to continue running in case we get a connection error here. So what I can do, I'm going to set my error object here, and I'll just tell the user that we could not connect to the server. So instead of returning anything, because we're not getting any response from the server, then I'm just going to pass in an error string here, and I will say we could not connect to the server, like that, so that the programmer on the front end will know what he can do. Maybe he can provide a callback here. In this case, for example, if we were designing an online fast application or client application, then it means if we do not get the server and we wanted to store some data, we're going to store that data on the client side, and when the server is available, then we can push that data back to the server. So the programmer could just provide maybe a callback to redirect the request to do something in the local application database. Alright, so in case this is the reason, or in case of this, we are going to populate our alert here, and then we're going to push that into the shared preferences. Alright, so let me go ahead and try to restart the application and see if we're going to get the desired action here. So I've already reloaded the application, and let's try it again once more. So it should count until 5 seconds, and it should come back and tell us that it did not get the response from the server. And it seems it's not working that way. So maybe there's another problem somewhere. So what we can do, let's try to start with the unknown error type. So I'm going to copy that. I'll come back here, and instead of doing a return here, I'm still going to populate the alert here. So I'll go ahead and populate that, and I'm going to say unknown error occurred. Here you could just provide a more accurate response to the user, but for now I'm just going to say that unknown error occurred. Alright, so this should be unknown error occurred. Alright, so I'm going to save that. I'll come here in my application and I'll try to log in, and I still have that problem. Okay, I will try to reload the application because we changed something. We have to reload the application. So I reloaded the application. I'm going to try again. And now, as you can see, I have a non-error code. And the type of error, if we inspect our console here, it's telling us that we have an invalid argument and no host is specified. All right, so this is our problem, and we're going to address this problem. So let's go ahead and see how we can address that problem. To address that problem, let's go back to our Postman where we used to test our APIs from, and inside the environments and then the dev environment here, I'm going to copy the base URL from here. Right, I'll copy the base URL, then I'll go back to my Flutter client, which is this one here, and in the routes, if you can remember, we had endpoints here, and here we have the base URL. Instead of having this base URL, I'm going to replace it with the one that's coming from Postman, like that. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to restart the application again. The application already restarted, and I'm going to try again to log in. So it is telling us the application returned an invalid status of 500. So this means that we got the server, but it's returned an error code of 500, which is a server error. We still need to know what was returned by our server. So for us to be able to do that, we go back to the interceptor here. And what we are going to do, I'm going to copy this one here. I will try to make the font smaller. I will try to copy that, and I'll come down here. I'll paste that in, and instead of checking status 404, I am now going to check 500. Remember, on your side, instead of saying if for so many of the codes, you can just check if the code is not 200. So if it's not 200, it means that we have an error there. So, but for me, I will just have to do it like this for now. If need be, then I'll change and say if the response status code is not equal to 200, and then I can address most of the errors, because as we said when we were creating the API, most of the error will have the same template, right? But for now, let's just use if the status code is 500. And what we are going to do, we are going to go inside and extract the message, and then in the message there will be the errors, and the errors will have the message string, and that's what we are going to print, and that's what we are going to put into our alert, and then we push that into shared preferences, and that's what we are going to print to the user. So again, I am going ahead and restarting the Flutter application, and it has already restarted, so I'm going to try to log in again. And now, as you can see, we communicated to the server, and it shows us that the error is that the class app service of service not found. And if you can remember, this is because of the auth parameter that we had to be able to send when we were doing the login, this parameter here. So it means we've not provided it when we are doing the login here. And what we can do, we can go ahead here, and what to do here is just to send it inside here, and I'm going to say auth should be equal to now not true, but to be now a token, like that. I am going to save that, go ahead and try to restart the application again. Already restarted, and I'll try again and see if I can log in. And as you can see now, we are logged in to the application, as we already saw that we can now log in. All right, so that's the login part. Let's go ahead and address the registration part. All right, so I'll go ahead and try to restart the application once more. And here I have the login screen. I do not want the login screen for now. What I want to do is to register new user. So I'll come back here and I try to register new user. I'll go ahead and browse an image from my emulator here. I'll take that one, and then I'm going to have the same name, the same last name, the email. I'm going to send that, and password. I'll try to send a very simple password like 123456. I'll confirm my password is 123456, and then I'll try to register a new account. And as you can see, I think we are having some trouble doing the registration. So let's go ahead and see what the problem could be. Let me restart the application, and then as the application starts, I'll go to my registration page here. which is causing some trouble. And what I will do, I will just go through the code, and here, remember this is a boolean being provided by this register method here. So it populates the auth provider get proceed. So it sets the get proceed to true if the method went through, and it sets the proceed to false if it doesn't go through. So if it goes through, then we're going to do this. But here I forgot to say, in case the proceed is false, what are we gonna do? What we can do in this scenario, I'm going to copy this. I'll set it to false. And another thing I'm also going to copy is this guy here, and I'm also going to set whatever is coming from the storage to this alert here, and it's going to complain because we do not have the singleton being defined anywhere. And now I'm just going to define it up above so that I can use it in both the this case here and the other case. So I'm just going to define it here so that it's available for both this guy here and this one around here. All right, so that is it. Let me try to restart the application once again, and I'll try to register the user once more. So I will go ahead and try to say I'm going to provide my password. I'll say 123456 123456. I try to send this. I am going to choose an image for my profile. I'll choose this, and then I am going to try to register. And now at least we got an error here, which is telling us that the auth service is not found, and we could know the problem here. So what I am going to do right now, I am going to say, well, remember what we need here is first name, then we need last name, which we already have, so I'm going to remove that. We need password, we need password confirmation, and here we need the scope. Remember we hit scope from the other side, and for now I'm just going to set to the default scope that we have, which is customer. We need email, we need password confirmation, and here we have phone number, and then we have profile image. I remember we called it profile image like that. All right, so before I'm going to set this, remember here we are supposed to set the auth. So I'm gonna say auth to be a string, and I'll call it token like that. All right, so let's go ahead and try to restart the application. And it restarted. I'm going to go ahead and try to register a new user. So I choose my image. I provide my password, which is 123456 and 123456. I'll try to log in. I'll try to register, and it's gonna tell us the email is already being used by somebody else. All right, so that's validation error. And what I can do here, I can just edit this to me too, and try to send this again. And now it logs us in. It registers a new user and tells us go back to the registrations to the login screen and try to log in from there. So here I have my email as me@me2.com, and here I'm going to try to log in with the new user. And as you can see, the new user is logged in successfully, but we are missing something. We don't see an image here. So what could be the problem? So let's go ahead and see what's happening here. If I go to my APIs application, which is here, and try to check inside my public folder, and I want to check if I have an image there, which I do not have. So it means this is the old image that we sent, and we're not registering a new image, or we're not uploading a new image when we send this user for registration. So let's go ahead and try to address that. And what I'm gonna do here, instead of just sending an object like this, I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to say from data dot from map. So I'm going to send it as a map, and here I need to tokenize this like that. And now I'm going to save like that. I'm going to restart the application, and when it starts, I'll go back here in registration. I'll try to choose an image, and then what I can do, I will change the phone number to 53, and I'll put my password as 123456 123456, and here of course I'll have to change my email to me@me3.com, and then I'll try to register a new user again. A new user is registered. Let's go back to our APIs and see if we have an image, and sure, now we have an image here, and this is the image that we selected for our user. So let's try to log in with this user. It's me@me3.com. Password will remain the same, and then I'll try to log in. The user is logged in successfully, but we still cannot see the image. So let's just go ahead and see. Even the name itself we cannot see. So it means that something is not working correctly. And let me see here. It's saying that so as we can see, it's complaining about this file here being null. So it's trying to construct a URL, but it cannot. So let's go ahead and see what we might be getting from the Postman. So when we log in, this is the response that's going to come from the Postman. So for example, the profile image is going to be null if you did not upload the image. So let's try for someone who uploaded their image. For example, the me3.com, this guy uploaded image through the mobile application, and see what we are going to get back. See, as we can see, we only get the image name. We don't get the image URL. What we need instead is the URL of this image from our server. So let's go ahead and address that. What we are going to do in our user class in the server application here, we're going to make a scope. So let's go inside the user model here, and we're going to make a scope that gets the image attribute, and this is how we're gonna make it. So it's gonna be profile image, and we do not have URL, so it's just a profile image attribute. And if there is a value saved in the database in this column called profile image, then it's going to return that as coming from root, which is the public folder here, and then it's going to go inside upload, then images, then users, and then profile, and it's going to take now the name of that image if at all it's there. Right, so I'm going to save this. We go back to Postman, try to send the request again, and now you can see now we have this URL here. All right, and now it's pointing directly to where we want it to point as a URL. Another thing that we do not see, we do not see the email of the user or the name of the user here where it's written now. Let's go ahead and see how we address that. To do that, we go back to our application here, and we check on the login repository. Remember, the data being stored in the shared preferences is being stored there in the auth repository here when we do a login user. All right, so let's go ahead and see what's happening here. So we say login user, and then we are supposed to store this into our shared preferences. So it means here the data that we return to the guy who is calling this method, which is the auth provider. So let's go ahead and see the auth provider here. We return the data here, and we set this data to this set user data, which is inside our shared preferences class that we created as an helper here. All right, so what happens here is that we are going to get the data, then access token, data refresh token, and then we are going to get user, then user ID, and that's what we are going to store user ID as user ID. And here we are storing this user as user, and then we're getting user as user, and we are storing it like that. User ID will be given by user ID that we have from here, and then any other thing that belongs to the user, it's going to be stored inside the shared preferences. Right, so if that's the case, then we've just addressed the image case, which is already being stored there. And now let's go ahead and address the null value that is being shown here. To be able to do that, we are going back to our shared folder here, and then we have widgets, and then we have the navbar. And in the navbar is where we are getting the display for the image and the username. So if you check here, we have the profile image URL. Remember that now it's not longer called profile image URL, but just profile image. And another thing we are setting here is the username, which we do not have now. We can just go ahead and set the email of the user who is logged in. All right. So let me go ahead and try to restart the application. And that should log us out. And then we go back and try to log in with someone who is having an image as their profile. And let's go ahead and try just to log in again. And this time around now we have the user email being printed, but we still cannot see the image of the guy who is logged in. So it means we still have some problem when we are fetching the image. That's because it reads this person as stores this. It did not store the actual image in the database. So let's go and see what's happening here, because it's trying to return the default image for this user who is logged in. And the problem is the person who is currently logged in is me.com, which should be a mistake in the login page. So let me bring in the login page, which is this one here. And as you can see now, we have here we are supposed to provide a dynamic value instead of just putting the static value that we had. Now we're going to get it from the password and the email property that we have already defined. Right, so I'm going ahead, I'll save that. I'll go ahead and try to restart the application again, and it comes again here. Now we can go ahead and try to say Meet3. Password will still be the same though. I'll go ahead and try to log in, and now as you can see, now we have me at meet3.com, and now we have the image of this guy who is logged in, and that is it. Now what you can do on your side, just go ahead and try to implement the logout method. Remember, we did not implement the logout method, and you can also go an extra mile and try to provide the refresh token. So what happens with our login token or our auth token is that if we try to exit this application, so I'm going to exit this application completely, and then I'm going to go back and try to relaunch it. What happens is that we should be able to go back to the application itself, but now it's bringing us here in the login screen. So let's try to rerun the project, because now we are supposed to be able to get inside the application without being confronted by the login screen again. So that should be happening in our main file where we have the application starting up. So let's go ahead and see what we can do. And as you can see here in the main application file, here I have this call to remove user information, which is actually going to remove the auth data from the shared preferences. So that's why we keep on getting kicked out every time we try to relaunch the application again. So instead of that, I'll go inside the main file and I'll remove this part here. Instead of removing it, I'm just going to comment it out. But we really don't need it. You can just go ahead and remove it. Right, so that is it. Now I'm going to try to restart the application again. Then I'll try to log in again, and then I'll quit the application completely and try to come back to the application, which should send us to, which should evaluate this part of if statement, and then it's going to give us home as my home page. And then here, instead of going back to the login, it's going to go to this variable here, which will be now my home page. Right, so the application already restarted. I'll try to log in now. That should log me in and it should give me the image. Or it's not gonna give me the image because I logged in with the other guy, the user number 1 or the user me at me.com. It's not gonna give me the image because the user did not register the image. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just reload the application with the remove user info in place, and then I'm going to remove it again. I'm going to try and log in with the user number 3, and then I'm just going to say login. All right, and that's my user number 3 being registered in the application. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to quit the application completely. I don't think quit. Yeah, I'm going to quit the application completely like that. As you can see, I do not have it. I'm going to launch the application again. It's not even running on the console. that was unexpected. So let me try to log in. I'll try to log in again. Here I have the application, and I'm going to remove it. Come back. Did I remove it? I don't think I removed it. So I'm going to just quit it completely and come back again. And hopefully we should go back to application, which is not the case here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to rerun the application again. Maybe when I killed the application, then I relaunched. It seems like I relaunched an old snapshot of the application installation, and that might be the problem. So I'm just going to install the application again and then try it again once more. Yeah, and there we are. So as you can see, we are still logged in. I'll try to remove this application and then try to log in again. So I'm going to kill the application completely. Even on my console, it's not there. I'll go back here and try to launch the application. Hopefully now this time around it's gonna take in. Yeah, it's gonna take us in, and there we are. Now we have the application and the state of the user who is logged in being remembered. Right, so that is it for this video. Please go ahead and try to create the logout method. If you face any challenges, please just write to me, and I'll try to help you as soon as possible. So thank you very much for being with me on this one. I'll see you in our next course.